Now, the Lib Dem Spring Conference kicks off today. They're announcing plans, amongst other things, to bring in sewage tax to force water companies to clean up their discharge.
Oh, that's one way of putting it. Shall we get the thoughts then of the Deputy Leader of the Lib Dems, who can join us now, Daisy Cooper. A very good morning to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Before we get on to sewage, and I know it's a very big issue, one which we feel quite strongly about, actually, isn't it? What about the timing of the general election? As you go into your spring conference, you might have thought this is the time to sort of get ready for a spring election, but it is not going to happen, is it?
Well, I think Rishi Sunak is running scared, isn't he? And I think it's a real shame because people around the country are sick and tired of this Conservative government. And when I go knocking on doors, what I hear from people is they feel like absolutely everything has been broken by the Conservatives, whether it's access to GPs or dentists or the cost of living crisis or childcare, whatever it is. People are really, really frustrated. They want to have their say in the ballot box. I think Rishi Sunak is running scared of that.
Why is it then? And it's not that the water company issue is not a significant thing that needs to be looked at, but it's not what is top of people's agenda when you're knocking on doors or popping down the local. So why is it that you're focusing on that?
Well, a couple of reasons. I mean, the first is that it's an absolute environmental catastrophe, what's been happening over the last few years. And Ed Davey and the Liberal Democrats have really been leading this debate in Westminster, drawing attention to it. So it is a big environmental catastrophe. But I think there's also another element to this, which is that at a time when people do feel like everything is broken, the NHS and the cost of living, they look at the fact that water companies have been able to pump sewage into our rivers and onto our beaches with impunity. And it just feels like absolutely nothing is sacred. And that's why the Liberal Democrats are calling today for a specific sewage tax, and for that money to go towards cleaning up our rivers and our waterways, and also to employ a new raft of environmental journalists and environmental reporters at the local level who can look at these issues and make sure that they don't go under the radar ever again.
I mean, it does matter where you live, doesn't it? I don't know if you are in a particular area where there are real concerns about pollution and about sewage in rivers and all the rest of it. But in some areas, it really is appalling. And isn't it even worse that the people at the top of our water companies just keep earning enormous salaries and give themselves bonuses?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, it's really shocking that water company profits have almost doubled since 2019. And at the same time, these are water companies who say they haven't got the money to fix rusty pipes. They haven't got the money to do the proper monitoring and reporting of the sewage dumps. Even when they are measuring those sewage dumps, often they're looking at the number of hours, but not the overall volume. And as you say, this has a really, really big impact. I mean, in St Albans, where I am, we have a beautiful chalk stream, the River Ver. The sewage, there's not so much sewage in my constituency, but downstream, as the river progresses, there is sewage in that area. But it wasn't that long ago that I popped into my local hospital for a blood test, and the person I was sitting next to said to me that he was there to get a blood test because he'd taken part in a sort of triathlon on a beach on the south coast, and he'd got really, really ill as a result of swimming in the sea, and his doctor thought it could have been because of sewage dumping. That is just not an acceptable situation for our country to be in. That's why these companies that are raking in billions of pounds in profits really ought to be coughing up the money, paying a new tax and cleaning up our rivers and waterways.
I noticed that you mentioned Ed Davey and the Liberal Democrats. Is that some sort of rebrand? Is it Ed Davey's Liberal Democrats now? Because isn't he still a toxic figure after the post office scandal? And not whatever happened at the time when he was in office, but the fact that he still hasn't, and when he did it on camera, would not issue that apology. That still sticks in the craw for an awful lot of Britons. Is he not a toxic leader for you?
Ed Davey is a fantastic leader for the Liberal Democrats, and on that particular issue, he did say sorry and said it also that he regretted the fact that he was lied to by the Post Office. But let's remember that Ed Davey was a climate secretary. He's responsible for almost tripling renewable energy in this country. He's talked very openly and passionately about his experience as an unpaid carer, putting the experience of unpaid carers at the heart of our health and care policies in Parliament. And he's led the way on exposing this enormous sewage scandal. So he's shown exceptional leadership. He was the first party leader to call for a windfall tax when the cost of living happened as well. So time and time again, he's shown that he and the Liberal Democrats can lead and win the battle of ideas.
OK, we've got to leave it there. Daisy Cooper, good to talk to you. Hopefully we'll see you again pretty soon in the run-up to this election, whenever it may be. Thanks very much indeed.
I've got my brother-in-law goes out running a lot in the early mornings, and he always posts on the family WhatsApp pictures of beautiful sunrises and things like that. But occasionally he posts pictures of revolting sewage being poured out into the sea on the south coast, and it is utterly, utterly disgusting. Something has got to be done about it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no excuses.